February 15th, 2003, Antwerp, Belgium. $100 million, gone, in one night. And the craziest part? The thieves didn't break in, they had the keys. Leonardo Notarbartolo was a professional jewelry thief from Turin, Italy. On February 15th, 2003, he and his crew walked into the most secure vault on Earth, bypassed 10 layers of security, and emptied 123 safe deposit boxes without triggering a single alarm. But this isn't just a story about a heist. It's about 2 years of obsessive preparation, the hairspray that blinded thermal sensors, the hidden camera in a wristwatch, and the single bag of garbage that destroyed everything. One crew member dumped their trash on a rural road. Inside that bag, DNA evidence, fingerprints, and handwritten notes describing the vault's security systems. $100 million vanished in 4 hours. 3 days of carelessness undid it all. This is how the biggest diamond heist in history fell apart because of one piece of garbage. Antwerp, Belgium, the diamond capital of the world. 4 city blocks where billions of dollars change hands every single day. Merchants who speak dozens of languages but understand only one, the language of money. 84% of the world's rough diamonds pass through these streets. More wealth flows through this small district than through most nations. For over 5 centuries, Antwerp has been the center of the global diamond trade. At the heart of this empire stood a fortress disguised as an office building, the Antwerp Diamond Center on Schoopstraat, 12 stories tall, hiding secrets worth more than small nations. 2 floors below street level lay the vault. Engineers had designed 10 separate layers of security. They assumed their creation was impenetrable. Motion detectors swept the corridors. Thermal sensors tracked body heat. Magnetic field scanners monitored the doors. Seismic monitors detected vibrations in the floor. Doppler radar, light beams, combination locks. And guarding the final door? A combination with 100 million possible sequences. Inside that vault sat 189 safe deposit boxes, holding diamonds, gold, jewelry, and cash worth more than $100 million. The security chief told visitors the vault was impossible to rob. You would need to be a magician, he said. But how do you rob a vault that cannot be robbed? He had no idea that 2 floors above his head, a magician had already begun his greatest trick. Leonardo Notarbartolo stepped off the train at Antwerp Central Station in the summer of 2000. Middle-aged Italian man, expensive clothing, confident stride. But Notarbartolo was not a businessman. He was Italy's most successful jewelry thief, a ghost who had spent 20 years perfecting the impossible heist. Turin police knew his name, but they could never prove his crimes. Now he had come to Antwerp, drawn by the impenetrable vault. At age 48, Notarbartolo understood something other thieves did not. The hardest locks in the world surrender to patience, and patience was his greatest weapon. His first move was brilliant. He established himself as a legitimate gem dealer, created an identity so convincing that Antwerp merchants invited him to private auctions. He opened accounts with Belgian banks. He paid taxes. He filed paperwork like any honest businessman. Most importantly, in 2001, he rented office space inside the Antwerp Diamond Center itself, Suite 516. That single decision gave him legal access to a building that should have been beyond criminal reach. He paid the rent on time. He shook hands with security guards. He greeted neighboring tenants by name. Over 18 months, he became part of the furniture, invisible. Every morning, he badged through security, studied camera angles, memorized guard rotations, mapped blind spots in surveillance coverage. The systems designed to keep criminals out became familiar territory for a man with legitimate credentials. But Notarbartolo couldn't do this alone. He needed specialists. How do you build a crew capable of the impossible? From Italy, he recruited Ferdinando Finotto, a master safecracker whose fingers could read vibrations through steel. He could feel tumbler movements invisible to electronic sensors. 47 years old, a veteran of dozens of successful jobs across Europe. He brought in Pietro Tavano, a specialist in electronic systems. Tavano could make cameras and sensors bend to his will. He understood the logic behind every security protocol, and he knew exactly how to defeat them. From Belgium came Elio Denorio. He knew Antwerp's geography and criminal networks, every tunnel, every escape route, every safe house. And somewhere behind the scenes stood a fifth man, a mysterious figure known only as the King of Keys, a locksmith of extraordinary skill. Nobody has ever identified him. They called themselves the School of Turin. They met in secret locations throughout 2001 and 2002, discussing plans that sounded like science fiction, and slowly, impossibly, turning fiction into reality. Antwerp, late 2001. The crew approached the vault like scientists studying a new species. Notarbartolo photographed security systems with cameras hidden inside pen bodies. Tavano identified weaknesses in motion detectors, thermal sensors, and magnetic locks. Finotto analyzed the 3-foot steel door protected by combination locks. 100 million possible sequences. How do you crack a lock with 100 million combinations? The answer was simple. You don't crack it, you copy it. They rented a warehouse on the outskirts of Antwerp in early 2002. Over 6 months, they built perfect replicas of the vault corridors. They installed motion detectors, thermal sensors, and magnetic field generators identical to the systems protecting their target. 2 years of preparation, transforming impossible theories into executable reality. The vault required 2 things to open: an electronic combination and a physical key. Only 3 keys existed, held by Antwerp Diamond Center executives who guarded them religiously. During a routine meeting about his deposit box in the autumn of 2002, Notarbartolo produced his own key. He asked the supervisor if he was holding it correctly. She examined it under magnification. While she studied his key, Notarbartolo photographed her key profile with a camera hidden in his wristwatch. 1 photograph, 3 seconds. That single image provided enough detail for the King of Keys to manufacture a perfect duplicate. 8 attempts and thousands of euros later, they possessed a copy that fooled electronic readers designed to detect imperfect keys. The warehouse transformed into a training facility. They practiced the entry sequence hundreds of times. Every step became automatic, muscle memory. They timed each movement, each turn of the head, each step down each corridor. Notarbartolo would enter through the front door using his legitimate access. His crew would approach through service tunnels mapped during months of reconnaissance. Tavano designed electronic countermeasures to fool security systems without triggering backup alarms. Ordinary hairspray applied to thermal sensors would create temporary blind spots lasting 12 minutes. Electromagnetic pulse generators would disable magnetic locks for 7-minute windows. Camera loops would replace live feeds with recorded footage of empty corridors. Finotto practiced safe cracking on identical locks. His fingers learned the subtle variations in tumbler mechanisms, the almost inaudible clicks that indicated successful manipulation. They rehearsed contingency plans for every complication: security guard arriving early, electronic systems behaving unpredictably, police response to false alarms. What if something went wrong? Each rehearsal revealed new problems, requiring new solutions. The vault's ventilation created air currents that might affect motion detectors. Floor vibrations from street traffic could trigger seismic sensors. A cleaner working late could stumble upon them. A merchant retrieving documents at odd hours could blow their cover. But each problem generated answers, and those answers became part of their master plan. By late January 2003, intelligence gathering revealed the perfect opportunity: a long weekend in mid-February. Building security would operate on reduced schedules. Diamond merchants would travel to international shows in Switzerland and New York. The normally bustling district would fall quiet. Notarbartolo established his alibi. He maintained normal business activities, met with diamond merchants, conducted transactions that created paper trails, placing him in predictable locations. The plan was perfect. Every detail locked in place, every variable controlled. 2 years of obsessive preparation distilled into one flawless operation. Nothing could go wrong. That kind of confidence usually comes right before everything falls apart. Think they pulled it off? Drop your prediction in the comments below and hit subscribe, because what happens next will surprise you. Now the impossible begins. February 15th, 2003. 11:47 p.m. Antwerp slept beneath winter clouds that hid the moon and stars. The Diamond District lay quiet. Only security guards made routine patrols through corridors, protecting more concentrated wealth than anywhere else on Earth. Notarbartolo used his legitimate keycard to enter the Antwerp Diamond Center through the main entrance. Security cameras recorded his arrival, but they saw nothing suspicious, just a tenant working late in his rented office. Beneath the building, his crew moved through service tunnels. Tavano carried electronic equipment worth more than luxury cars, designed to fool security systems costing millions. Finotto brought safe-cracking tools refined through decades of criminal experience. They converged 2 floors below street level. Motion detectors swept corridors in patterns they had memorized down to the second. Tavano produced a can of hairspray, purchased earlier that week from a local pharmacy. He applied it to thermal sensors. The spray froze the sensor surfaces. It prevented heat detection for precisely 12 minutes before evaporating without trace. Electronic countermeasures disabled magnetic field detectors, with electromagnetic pulses calibrated to avoid triggering backup systems. Camera feeds switched to recorded loops showing empty corridors. Each step unfolded according to plans rehearsed hundreds of times. Motion detectors swept past as they froze in positions calculated to avoid electronic eyes. They advanced through gaps in coverage, with timing precise as Swiss clockwork. 12:30 a.m. The massive vault door loomed before them. 3 feet of hardened steel, protected by electronic locks, mechanical locks, combination systems, and biometric scanners, all working in harmony to create what should have been perfect security. But perfect security assumes attackers lack the dedication, resources, and expertise assembled by this crew. Tavano connected his equipment to the vault's control systems. Algorithms probed for vulnerabilities in programming created by paranoid engineers. Streams of code flowed across his display, seeking weaknesses in electronic defenses. The hack progressed through layers of security protocols. Encryption crumbled under sustained assault. Finotto worked simultaneously on the mechanical systems. His fingers read vibrations through steel, feeling tumbler movements invisible to electronic sensors, listening for sounds that indicated successful manipulation. The combination lock required navigating 100 million possible sequences. But Finotto understood that manufacturing tolerances created subtle variations, mechanical signatures that guided experienced fingers toward correct numbers. Would the vault door open? What if a single sensor detected them? Electronic systems surrendered to Tavano's assault. Backup protocols failed under sustained attack. Biometric scanners accepted false readings. The vault's 17 separate locking mechanisms began disengaging in carefully orchestrated sequence. Mechanical bolts retracted with sounds like muffled gunshots. 1:15 a.m. The massive door swung open on silent hinges. $100 million awaited. The vault revealed its secrets. 189 safe deposit boxes lined the walls, each one containing fortunes in diamonds, gold, jewelry, and cash. The concentrated wealth glowed under fluorescent lighting like an alien treasure chamber. They worked with mechanical precision born from months of rehearsal. Finotto attacked the deposit box locks, using techniques that turned security mechanisms into cooperative partners. Each lock surrendered after brief resistance. Diamonds poured into specially designed containers, lined with foam that prevented scratching. Gold jewelry disappeared into cases that distributed weight across multiple carriers. Cash bundles flowed into backpacks, designed to handle extreme loads. Box after box revealed treasures representing lifetime accumulations of wealth. Diamond merchants' retirement funds. Jewelry collections assembled across generations. Gold reserves that families had saved for emergencies that would never come. Some boxes contained documents, birth certificates, property deeds, personal letters from loved ones long gone. The crew ignored those. They wanted only what could be converted to cash. Other boxes held surprises, uncut stones straight from African mines, historical jewelry with documented provenance, loose diamonds wrapped in tissue paper, each one worth more than most cars. The crew worked methodically, no panic, no excitement, just professional focus. 2:30 a.m. 60 boxes opened. 3:45 a.m. 100 boxes opened. 5:02 a.m., 123 boxes opened. Finotto whispered that the estimated value exceeded projections by 40%. They worked for exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes, carefully timed to finish before dawn security patrols returned to full strength. Then, they reversed everything. Electronic countermeasures reversed their effects. Security systems returned to normal operation. Hairspray evaporated from thermal sensors, leaving no trace of temporary blindness. Camera feeds returned to live monitoring, as recorded loops seamlessly transitioned back to real-time footage. 5:30 a.m. They exited through the same routes used for entry, leaving behind a vault that appeared undisturbed to casual observation. Motion detectors resumed normal sweep patterns, detecting nothing unusual in corridors that had just witnessed the greatest diamond theft in history. Notarbartolo departed through the main entrance, his legitimate access providing perfect cover for activities that legally should not have occurred. Security cameras recorded his exit, but documented nothing more suspicious than a businessman completing late-night work. The crew scattered across Antwerp, following escape routes planned with military precision. Safe houses awaited at strategic locations throughout the city. By sunrise on February 16th, $100 million in diamonds, gold, and jewelry had vanished into channels that converted stolen goods into untraceable wealth. They had done it. The impossible heist, complete. The plan was perfect, the execution flawless, the escape complete. They had beaten security systems designed to be unbeatable, outsmarted investigators who specialized in catching uncatchable criminals. But how long would their freedom last? Monday morning, February 17th, 2003. The vault manager arrived for routine operations, standard procedures, normal paperwork. Then she opened the vault. What she found would launch one of the largest international investigations in Belgian history. Empty boxes, scattered contents, evidence of systematic theft on a scale never before seen in Antwerp. $100 million, gone. Police responded within hours. The Diamond Squad arrived, elite investigators who spent their careers protecting Antwerp's most valuable commodity. They examined the scene, found almost nothing. No forced entry, no triggered alarms, no damaged equipment, no witness reports, no surveillance footage capturing anything unusual. It looked like a ghost had robbed the vault. Within hours, news of the theft spread across Europe. Diamond merchants panicked, insurance companies scrambled, politicians demanded answers. How had this happened? Who could have pulled it off? And where were the diamonds now? Detectives interviewed every tenant of the Diamond Center. They reviewed months of surveillance footage. They examined every badge swipe, every phone call, every business transaction. The list of suspects was enormous. Hundreds of tenants, thousands of visitors, dozens of employees with vault access. But nothing pointed to a specific perpetrator. The crime appeared to have been committed by professionals who left no trace. The Antwerp Diamond Squad faced their biggest failure in decades. A crime had been committed on their watch, and they had no leads. Perfection requires maintaining discipline even after success, and success breeds the carelessness that destroys criminal careers. Meanwhile, 60 miles outside Antwerp, Ferdinando Finotto made a decision that would haunt him forever. Rather than following established protocols for evidence disposal, he stopped along a rural road in the small Belgian village of Floordambos. He dumped a plastic bag into a forest clearing. Inside that bag sat meal containers, used gloves, pieces of tape bearing DNA evidence, half-eaten salami sandwiches, and handwritten notes. Why did he do it? Why break protocol after 2 years of meticulous preparation? Nobody knows for certain. Perhaps he was exhausted after the long night. Perhaps he was overconfident. Perhaps he thought nobody would ever find it. The bag sat beside the road for 3 days. August Van Camp, a local farmer, 60 years old, a retired grocer who had moved to the countryside for peace and quiet. Van Camp had a complicated relationship with the property owner, a long-running neighborhood dispute over littering and land use. He was known in the village as a man who hated trash on his land. When Van Camp discovered fresh trash on his neighbor's land, he didn't just complain, he sorted through it, documenting evidence for a potential lawsuit. That's when he found the envelope. An envelope addressed to the Antwerp Diamond Center. Van Camp had watched the news, he knew about the heist, and he immediately called the police. What would they find inside? Inside that bag, investigators discovered a forensic gold mine. DNA samples from multiple individuals, fingerprints on tape and containers, handwriting that could be matched to specific individuals. And most damaging of all, detailed notes describing security systems and procedures. The kind of notes that could only have been written by someone with intimate knowledge of the vault. The discovery transformed a perfect crime into an international manhunt. Belgian police coordinated with Italian authorities. Interpol joined the hunt. Intelligence agencies that specialized in tracking international criminal organizations contributed their resources. Within days, investigators had their first major lead. DNA evidence identified Finodo within weeks. Surveillance revealed his connections to other crew members. Financial records exposed unusual spending patterns. Sudden acquisition of significant wealth that could not be explained by legitimate income. Communication intercepts captured conversations referencing suspicious activities. Notarbartolo's legitimate business facade crumbled under scrutiny. Inconsistencies between reported income and lifestyle expenses raised red flags. His rental of office space inside the target building transformed from clever cover into damning evidence of premeditation. Remember the key he photographed with his watch? Investigators found the hidden camera. Italian police raided properties connected to crew members. They discovered equipment matching tools used in the vault penetration, safe cracking devices, electronic countermeasures, specialized containers designed for transporting diamonds. Physical evidence linking suspects to the greatest diamond theft in history. The perfect crime became a perfect disaster. Why did Finodo throw that bag away? Why did he break protocol after 2 years of meticulous preparation? The answer was simple: arrogance. After pulling off the impossible, the crew believed they were untouchable. They had outsmarted the best security system in the world. What could a bag of garbage possibly matter? Everything, as it turned out. Leonardo Notarbartolo fell first. Arrested at his Turin home in the spring of 2003, he was eating breakfast with his wife when Belgian authorities presented extradition papers detailing evidence connecting him to the Antwerp heist. Forensic material, financial records, testimony from witnesses who observed his activities inside the Diamond Center. Ferdinando Finodo followed within hours. Captured at a safe house where investigators found diamond-cutting equipment and gem-quality stones matching descriptions of items stolen from specific vault deposit boxes. Pietro Tavano attempted to flee to South America, but international cooperation between police agencies tracked his movements through passport records, financial transactions, and electronic communications monitored by intelligence services. He never made it. Only Elio Denorio remained free for a while. He disappeared into European criminal networks, eventually arrested in 2007 after years on the run. The King of Keys? Never identified, never caught. He remains a ghost to this day. The trials began in 2005. They revealed the full scope of preparation that had gone into the heist. 2 years of planning, thousands of euros spent on replica equipment, hundreds of rehearsals in the warehouse outside Antwerp. In 2005, Leonardo Notarbartolo was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Released on parole in 2009 with a condition to compensate the heist victims. He never paid a single euro. In 2013, he was arrested again at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris for violating his parole, forced to serve the remainder of his sentence until 2017. Finodo, Tavano, and Denorio each received 5 years in prison with €5,000 fines. For one of the biggest heists in history, the sentences were remarkably light. Prosecutors had hoped for longer sentences, but Belgian law imposed strict limits for theft cases, and without recovering the diamonds, they could not pursue certain aggravated charges. The courtroom was packed during the sentencing. Victims watched in silent anger. Diamond merchants who had lost everything. Jewelers whose family businesses were ruined. Ordinary people whose life savings had vanished. One victim told reporters that the sentence was a joke. that the criminals would be back on the streets before most victims could rebuild their lives. Notarbartolo showed no emotion when the verdict was read. He had served prison time before. He knew the routine. 10 years was a manageable cost for the payoff. Despite extensive international investigations, 95% of the stolen diamonds have never been recovered to this day. Many victims were small diamond traders, whose life savings were wiped out. Some had no insurance. They had trusted the world's safest vault. Notarbartolo later told Wired magazine he was hired by a mysterious partner named Alessandro. He claimed the entire heist was actually insurance fraud orchestrated by vault owners. But authorities found no evidence of any such partner. Most investigators believe he was lying, rewriting history to avoid paying restitution. The Antwerp diamond heist changed security protocols across the diamond industry worldwide. Vault designers studied what went wrong. New systems were developed to address vulnerabilities exposed by the Italian crew. The Antwerp Diamond Center rebuilt its security from the ground up. Multiple redundant systems, biometric scanners on every level, 24/7 human monitoring of every sensor. But the diamonds remain missing. $100 million in stones scattered across the world, hidden in private collections, cut and recut to disguise their origins, sold through channels that will never be traced. The heist inspired books, documentaries, and Hollywood films. It became a case study in criminology classes around the world. Security experts study the Antwerp case to this day. Universities teach it. Insurance companies reference it. Vault designers cite it as the benchmark for what can go wrong. The School of Turin became legends in the criminal underworld, whispered about in prison cells, celebrated in certain circles, respected even by their captors. But the real story was never about the theft itself. It was about what happened after. Remember the security chief who said the vault was impossible to rob, that you would need to be a magician? He was right about one thing. Leonardo Notarbartolo was a magician. He made $100 million disappear. But even magicians make mistakes. One bag of garbage. That was all it took. 2 years of perfect planning destroyed by 3 days of carelessness. This is how the biggest diamond heist in history fell apart. Not because of brilliant detective work, not because of advanced forensic technology, but because one man couldn't be bothered to properly dispose of his lunch. And that brings us to the end of our story. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so you can receive new videos.